Marlin Palich, thank you very much for being here. We spoke with you.
Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. We spoke with you in the mid-June issue as part of our Business Journal Roundtable series on the housing, mortgage market, all of that stuff, which has been pretty exciting or interesting over the past couple of years. So I guess, what are you guys seeing right now?
Well, let's start with the mortgage market.
Sure.
In the past, maybe 2 years, 3 years ago, the rates were down into the 2s and the 3s, which is the lowest I've ever seen them. But currently, they're somewhere around the 6s, between the upper 6s to low 7s. But in my lifetime, that's still not a bad rate. I mean, I know that it's not a 2.5 or it's not a 3, but it's still, I had sold some homes in my lifetime at, 21%, 18%. So now looking at 6 or 7, it does knock some affordability out. Of course, you're going to purchase less. If it was at 2.5, you can purchase more, and as it goes up, it's going to be somewhat less in your purchasing power, but it's still a good rate, and we still have our other financing. We have FHA for government and VA, and in some markets, especially in the Mahoning Valley, we do have rural home, which is truly still 100% down mortgage. So, like the city, you live in Cortland, you can actually buy a house in Cortland on USDA. Believe it or not.
Awesome. Okay.
So the rates, I think, yes, they've inched up, but I think they have probably kept some people out of the market. They may have kept some people who wanted to move up out of the market because they think, why should I give a house up that's almost paid for or a very low interest rate to buy a bigger home, and I'll just wait until the rates adjust and stay where I'm at. So it's caused some of that, and because of that, it's caused the housing market somewhat to fewer homes to sell, or availability of homes, I should say, probably.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's probably the biggest concern.
That's the big one.
I'm not an expert, but I was in the housing market fairly recently, so I got a good idea of what a house looked like in this particular area and how much it was, and I still pay attention to that stuff, even though I'm no longer in the housing market or in the market for a new home. And I would say that this is just my observation. I'm watching things grow by maybe 25%, something like that. The same house that was maybe a year and a half ago, this price maybe is now 25, 30% more expensive today.
That's absolutely true.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to recall in this marketplace some years it was negative. So it's great to see it growing. Right. But you're probably right. I think the national average is somewhere around that 22%. The value has increased on homes in the past year. And I think the rationale is there's less houses on the market, so and buyers are there, and so those prices are being driven up, because if you need a home, you're going to pay, it's kind of, quote, they would say maybe a seller's market. It has changed a little bit. It's, I think in the past maybe 7, 8, 9 months, homes have, I think some people have been able to make some offers on those homes, where before they probably, based on the asking price, where before they probably had to pay over the asking. I'm not saying they still don't. Right. But it's a little bit softer in that part of it.
I was going to say, is it as crazy as it was? Because it was pretty crazy for a while.
It's still crazy.
Yeah.
But it's not, let's say, crazy, if there's such a thing. Yeah. I think, and it's funny. It's pocketed too.
Okay.
So let's talk about this. In Columbiana County, I'm going to say, like the Salem market, we have an office there. They're selling immediately. They go on the market, they're gone. Columbiana County has been one of our prime areas. They go on the market and they're off. They are immediately sold. There's offers on them, multiple offers. But then we also in market I want to talk about, and that's not just to Salem, but also in the Mahoning Valley. I think you're seeing, and the statistics prove that, NER just came out with a study, that a lot of people are starting, used to be they wanted to be 5 to 10, 15 minutes from work. Right. Now they're willing to go maybe 30 to 35 to 40 minutes, maybe an hour to work. So they're looking more out, and maybe some properties with some acreage. Because I think too, when COVID came, you kind of had to make your own fun. You had to have some things to do. And so the acreage thing came to be popular. So it's not saying housing developments aren't, it's saying that those more rural type of settings or close to are really booming. You know, people want some ground, they want some acreage.
Yeah.
And that's statistically coming from NAR too.
Are the home prices right now, or do you think that they're an accurate representation of the homes, of the value of the homes? Are they a little bit inflated because of such high demand?
They're probably inflated.
Okay.
I'm going to say this, talking to the realtors that I've known for a long time and realtors I've worked with for a long time, it's even hard for us to come up with a price for a home.
Right.
Now, I know that sounds a little bit ridiculous, but we normally do what's called a comparative market analysis. And today now we have many tools, you know, and we can look out there, you know, and get an idea on the market. But for example, I put a house on the market recently, and I think I was right on. It's probably, they bought it in 2019, and that house was priced about, and I'm just going to say it was probably based on the comparables in that marketplace, about $80,000 more than what they paid for it in 2019.
Wow.
It actually is now pending at over 80%, over that 80,000 equity. They got closer to 100,000.
Wow.
So, you know, I thought it was too high. We talked about it. I said if it was, you know, and I guess it proved me wrong.
Right.
So I guess it's good for that seller who had to move and is moving. It's not good for them. They're moving into a hot spot somewhere else.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I think.
Are these houses meeting the appraisal?
Well, now I've seen more of them not.
Okay.
Okay,
I was
but
wondering if
it's
that
not.
starts to
I'm not
happen.
going to say it's a tremendous amount of them not meeting appraisal.
Okay.
But I've seen more of it not happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this primarily being driven by low inventory?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So do we need more home construction?
Absolutely.
Do we need to renovate existing homes? Because there is some housing stock. It just may not be in the most desirable locations. Is it a mixture of both of those?
I think that you're seeing, and let's look like, for example, in certain marketplaces. If we look in the Cleveland market, or even we have been previously talking about Columbus, but I think we need to look at those markets where properties that could be rehabbed and changed. You know, instead of tearing some of these homes down and having vacant lots, it would be nice to take some of these wonderful homes that have great bones and be able to create neighborhoods again, and you know, that lifestyle neighborhood, more inner city type of thing,
right,
close to work and close to those downtown areas. And also new construction. We had a boom years and years and years ago of new constructions. We had a lot of developers, we had a lot going on, and then when the market crashed in that 2008 and 2009, it came to a screaming halt. A lot of new construction, it just kind of terminated. I'm saying there's some, but not a lot, and that's difficult too, you know, because if you want to sell, like, let's say people maybe my age, a baby boomer age, maybe would like to move into a condo or a villa or something, and they're just not there. So if we want to sell our homes, our kids have moved, our kids are not, you know, we're empty nesters, what do?
Right.
You know, we sell and we have no place to go, which also now has increased in the marketing of rentals. Rentals are becoming hot.
Now, new construction, because I looked into that also.
Okay.
That's also not cheap.
No.
Especially lately now with all of the supply chain
That
and
is
everything.
correct.
So now, new construction, a lot of people are almost being priced out of that. But I guess we talked about new construction, we talked about rehabbing houses. Are there initiatives or are there some programs that communities in the region should be undertaking or taking advantage of in order to maybe have a more cohesive or more proactive approach to the housing problem that we have right now? Do you think that municipalities are doing enough, or should they be doing more?
Wow. I guess it depends on the municipality, but I can say that we're looking at some of the markets. Let's talk about, like, for Cleveland. Well, let's start with Ohio Housing Financing Agency. One of their incentives, I had met with them, is trying to get low-cost loans, first-time home buyer loans. There's a bill in for people that they can save money, and it's tax-free, which I'm glad that our legislature is actually, our lawmakers are thinking about it. Let's face it, it's the way the housing market it goes is the way the economy goes. If the housing market is booming and in great shape, so goes the whole economy. Because when you buy a home, you buy drapes, you buy carpet, you buy furniture, you buy appliances. So it creates a lot of jobs. But I would like to see some of the communities getting involved, and maybe more city, where we can have affordable housing. Where people, the American dream is a home. It builds wealth. It builds cohesiveness. It builds neighborhoods. And I think it's, I understand we have some blighted and we've had to tear them down, but do we have to tear all of them down? I look at, like, Warren, through Trumbull Neighborhood Partners. We also, I think it's Youngstown has the same initiative.
The YNDC, yeah.
And they're doing an amazing job taking those homes, fixing them up, and making for first-time buyers or affordable housing. And again, working with the state of Ohio, the Ohio Housing Financing, they're really trying, and the money's there. They want people to reach out to them, the money, and use the money. I know we were talking, they're doing a new thing down in the Zanesville market. So I really stress to our lawmakers here and our leadership here to get started on that. Look into the money, what money's there, whether it's federal or state. I think our governor has tried to get money out there and wants to get that moving. And I think that's what we have to do.
So I guess with how expensive everything is right now, do you have a gauge on maybe who's being most impacted by this? Is this young new families? Is this older residents?
Well, I think it's probably across the board.
Yeah.
It's probably harder for younger because, that first-time home buyer market and the competitiveness of it. And again, wages make a difference. I don't know how far I want to get into that, but you have to make the payment.
Yeah,
and so,
you do.
And so it creates that too. I mean, jobs affect it too. So I think, again, I brought up about baby boomers. Well, we don't have a place to go. Like, where do we go? If we sell our house and we want a condo on that, there's not as many. And when they are, and then again, you talked about the supply chain. Well, the builders are waiting for months to get it. When they do get it, it's not cheap.
Right.
You may have a budget for a home, and because of the supply chain issues, it goes way over that budget. So yeah, it does. The economy is affecting it. The pricing, let's say that.
We mentioned some of the initiatives like the Trumbull Neighborhood Partnership in Youngstown. With their houses, I know some of the stipulations are, I don't know the exact number, but it's you have to live in this thing for 5 years. They want to make sure that they're selling this to somebody who's going to live in it, who's going to have a family in it, and they're trying to rebuild that neighborhood. Is there, now I know that they're a little bit different than, just an average real estate agency, but is some of that also happening to the market where we're getting people from out of state or from other markets who are coming in and buying up inventory because it's so cheap here?
Well, let's look at that two ways. So for example, and I'm going to say this, I talked about Salem previously. We sold 2 people homes and what, in that $400,000 to $500,000 range in that market, and they retired. They lived in California, retired. They had family back here, or the one couple had family, the other couple did not, but they researched it and went to the websites, drove around, and they liked the location. They
Right.
liked, that the housing was reasonable, and so they sold their house maybe that was 1 or 2 million with no garage or whatever, and in California, and bought a huge all brick ranch with 3-car garage for half that money. So yes. The other thing that we're seeing, and again, this comes more to a city type of location, but like let's talk about Cleveland because we're in that market also. A lot of people investing money into rentals and things like that.
Right.
But they're kind of, how do I want to say it? They're buying it, going through property, manage it, renting it, because they couldn't get that kind of return on their money in maybe New York City or San Francisco or something like that. So yeah, they're coming in and buying these properties, and a lot of them are sight unseen, and then go through property management and rent them out.
Well, and we've seen some of that. We've reported on a lot of that. A lot of these apartment complexes being purchased by somebody from out of state, some out of state investors, and then we started hearing people complaining that the rent has now gone way up. So I guess what are you seeing locally in the rental market also?
Well, the rental market is quite hot. Let's say
Okay.
that. Okay. So for example, I was working with somebody coming into the clinic to work for, as a resident, and finding affordable rental market was hard, and that was in the city of Cleveland, and you're right. What's coming in is these investors are coming in, and those rents are going up. So there is a demand for rentals. Now, again, I'm talking more for that residential type of rental.
Right.
The commercial market in some areas, from what I'm reading, again, I don't work as much on commercial, it seems like some of those properties are becoming standing still. They're not, but in that other market, oh yeah, rentals. And again, for example, sometimes with people that were baby boomers, if we decide to sell, it may be, we hate to say this, because there's no inventory or we have to pay way more, it may be beneficial to look at a nice place to rent where you don't have to maintain,
Right.
and you don't have to mow yards and do those kind of things, and you can leave it and go on a vacation. So yeah, the residential, I say residential, that sounds probably more of a, I guess it is residential, but more where you're going to live is boomed, actually. Again, part of it has to do, we don't have a place to go. So, and maybe we're getting older and we decide that, maybe we don't want to own again and not have our kids tied to that if we would pass or something, and have to deal with the real estate and do that. So we're seeing a lot of parents giving their children cash. I've never seen so many cash deals in my life.
For
Buying homes.
oh
Cash
okay.
is king, because if you're up in a multiple offer,
Right.
and if you were a seller, say you're a seller, Mike,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you have offers on the table and one's above asking or asking and it's cash, you're going to think about it, because
Yeah.
as long as you know that cash is liquid and it's available as a seller, and I don't have to worry about an appraisal, I don't have to worry about maybe some other things. Yeah, we're seeing and then what they do, some of them, their gifts they're going to give to their children anyways, or some of them then go buy the home, refinance, pay the cash back to the parents,
Okay.
to the family.
Yeah.
And I've had numerous of those.
717 Credit Union. Savings power to give your business an extra boost. Business savings, certificates, and business money market. 717 Credit Union. Make your money work as hard as you do. Check out our business money market and CD rates at 717cu.com/rates.